I received a few questions that I'd like to be able to respond to. The first is, what is the future of the Apple II computer in education and the home? The Apple II is still a very large business on its own. And while you hear Apple talking a great deal about the Macintosh and Macintosh technology, we shouldn't overlook the fact that there is a very large installed base of over 5 million Apple IIs in both education and the home, and it represents better than a billion-dollar market when you include all of the peripheral products that make up the Apple II system. The Apple II GS has many of the capabilities that a Macintosh has, and yet it also has the ability to run Apple II software. So it's been a product that has gained in acceptance as time has gone on, in spite of the success that we're having with the Macintosh, which is one indication, I think, that the Apple II will be around for a long, long time. Let me be emphatic about this, that there are no plans at Apple Computer to discontinue the Apple II. We are continuing to do development on it. You'll see more new products in the Apple II family. And while we put a lot of emphasis on the Macintosh technology, and we do see it growing in markets that include the home and education, we think the Apple II is going to be around for a long time into the future, and we'll continue to support it. The second question I have is about Apple's 90-day warranty on its products when other manufacturers have a year or more, and why don't we extend it? Our major obligation is to build the highest quality products that we can, and we try to build products that will be dependable not just for 90 days, but will be dependable throughout the lifetime use of those computers. But we also try to price our products in a way that will not burden every user with costs they might not have to incur. And consequently, we have chosen to offer a special Apple Care program to those people who want to get added service and support from Apple on a warranty basis going out to a year, if they pay some small additional fee. For those people who don't think they need it, then they're able to buy the Apple products at a lower price. So we want to give people the widest range of choice that we can without burdening everybody with an additional cost if they don't think that they need it. Whether we are selling into the corporate market, the government market, the education market, or selling to individuals, it's always the single person that is at the center of everything that we do. You see, we believe that the greatest productivity will come when individuals are able to work better, not just when institutions can work faster. And consequently, we try to design our products as tools for individuals so that individuals can feel empowered and can change the way that they work so they can think better, communicate better, even learn better. The individual has been at the center of what Apple has done since the company was founded. That's where we are today. I'll assure you, as we move out into the future, that's where we'll be there too.
Domino's Pizza sells more pizza than any company in the world. We have over 4,500 stores located all over the world, and we run those stores like little businesses. We had a problem at Domino's that we needed to fix, and that was we weren't getting information and tools out to our operations fast enough. I don't believe there's any question anymore that the kind of new standard for success is no longer money. I think the new standard for success in a corporation is information.
The service, the people, the waitresses, the waiters are friendly, and they're there the minute you need something to get it for you.
We have a project that we're doing with Apple. What we're building is a boilerplate or a template. In that template, we have what the philosophies, values, and attitudes of our company are in a very kind of recreational way. It's fun. What I saw in Apple was that they had sound, they had pictures, they could put text on there. And all of a sudden, the revolution was, if you had a learner who was an audio learner, you could get them. If you had a learner who was a digital learner, like text, you could get them. These different frames of learning were being addressed. I think what's exciting about this is that when you put these tools in the hands of that learner, he can develop the training around the way he learns. That's the revolution.
Good morning. It's good to be back in Boston. I also spent some time in Boston about 15 years ago. I spent a year at that school across the river. In fact, both of them. I'm really glad to be here to participate in this gathering of the Apple community. This is a great forum for seeing friends, sharing ideas, and exploring what's new in Apple. What's more, I'm proud to be here to celebrate the creative and inspiring achievements in the use of computing technologies in business, at home, and especially in learning environments. Now, today we're introducing two important products that will, in fact, enable Apple II loyalists to continue to make the Apple II the center of their computing universe. Today we are introducing a new version of the Apple II GS system software, version 5.0, which offers increased performance and new capabilities for Apple II GS owners. Version 5.0 will bring you greater speed in drawing, manipulating, accessing programs and files, and it will add up to a more user-responsive experience. Probably the most important feature of 5.0 is that it will give you new power in networking capabilities. Version 5.0 brings you integrated powers featuring easy-to-use Apple Share support from the desktop control panel. It also strengthens the ability to network the Apple II GS and the Macintosh. I urge those of you that are interested in seeing 5.0 in action to visit our booth outside, to try the program, and to see if you don't see a more powerful and efficient operating system. The second product that we're introducing here today is something that I will be talking about and demonstrating in a few minutes, and that is called the Apple II Video Overlay Card. I talked about the learning experience as being one where students are able to make connection and to communicate in powerful and exciting ways. The Apple II Video Overlay Card, in fact, enables teachers and students and even home learners to do just this. This card allows users to superimpose graphics from popular presentation, authoring, titling, paint, and animation programs over video from VCRs, video discs, video cameras, or television sets. The result is a medium richer in content and communication value than computers and video alone. But rather than talk about it, let's look at it. Doug Campbell-John, product manager for the Video Overlay Card, is here to show us this new powerful and interesting technology. Morning, Doug.
Morning, Bernie.
What are you going to show us this morning?
Well, we'd like to show some examples of taking everyday events and things that teachers could go off and videotape with a video camera themselves and turn them into very powerful, extraordinary teaching tools. What we've got set up here for equipment, so we've got an Apple II GS, and we have the video overlay card inside of it. We would normally have video coming from a camcorder, but in this case, in order to show up on the large screen television set, we've got a 3/4-inch video deck in the background. And we're taking the output of the card, we're simultaneously going to the RGB monitor and off to the VCR for recording.
You know, Doug, I might be dating myself, but 20 years ago when I was a graduate student, the electronics represented on this video card would have filled an entire classroom. And it's amazing that technology has progressed to the point that we can take a classroom full of vacuum tubes and reduce it down to the size of a board like this. It's amazing.
Well, actually, the prototypes probably approach that size. So what we've got here on the screen, we've taken some video footage of kids at the playground, and we can just show, we happen to be fortunate enough to have perfectly balanced weight children here. So the girl on the left in the yellow sweater is exactly 120 pounds. And the two brothers on the right, who are getting quite close, the young boy in the blue is 40 pounds, and his older brother is 80 pounds. Now, in a classroom, if a teacher was using this to teach fulcrum physics, they might show this video footage and then have the kids go to the blackboard and write up on the board the different equations. But the students still may not be able to make that conceptual leap to putting the two together. But now we can with video overlay. So what I've got is a paint program. This is Paintworks Gold. And we'll bring up an example of what we can do with overlay. And all of a sudden, this video footage becomes a launching pad for teaching you all about the physics of fulcrum.
And of course, the basic formula in physics, if my memory serves me correct, is that moments are measured in terms of the distance times the weight. So 4 times 120 pounds, or 480 foot-pounds, should be balanced by an equivalent number of foot-pounds on the other side of the fulcrum.
Correct. Now, in this example, we have, it's pretty simplistic since we have the two boys pairing up, but we can take a look at some other examples that we recorded off to videotape earlier that will give you a feeling of what some different scenarios might look like with different balances. So here's an example when, in fact, the girl is sitting for a unit 3 positions from the fulcrum, and her weight and position is more than offset by, in fact, the boy in red alone, because the boy in blue could jump off the teeter-totter and never worry about it. 6 times 80 is far greater than 3 times 120, and that's why we have the fulcrum balance like that. Now we can go to another example and see, in fact, where the girl is countering the weight of the two boys. So by sliding back on the teeter-totter, she suddenly becomes greater in weight than the two boys. Now, what you'd want to have students do is figure out how you would position these students to make it balanced. So we can take a look at the last video frame here, and it'll give us a feeling of how to balance without having to group the two boys together. So this is teaching us not only the physics of a fulcrum, but also reinforcing some basic math skills.
So we might even actually simulate, let's say, the girl moving up and down, and seeing how well the fulcrum balance goes up and down. And students might even map this on a graph to try to find out where the perfect point of equality is, and then learn physics intuitively. This is a very interesting experiment.
Well, you can think of several ways that you could actually bring this into the classroom. You could send your students off into the field, so to speak, to shoot their own video footage and create their own overlays, and then do it in a show and tell session to class. And the students have to learn about these concepts in order to present them to their peers. We could do as we're doing now and use it as a presentation tool, or teachers could work with interactive video disc and, as you mentioned, let students work at their own pace and try out different scenarios and learn about it that way. Now, this is just one example of what you can do with physics. We had some teachers who have been using the card now for several weeks. In fact, some weeks before we actually introduced the product, and we had some exciting examples. One example was a teacher did an overhead shot of a billiards table and took some billiard shots on videotape and then traced over the paths of the balls and used that to teach their high school geometry class all about the relationship of angles.
I imagine this would also be very useful in analyzing motion, possibly even to conduct sports analysis. Do you have other examples for us?
Funny you should mention that. In fact, we do. We took some video footage of someone who you might be a little familiar with, Nelson Gifford. And we have Nelson walking through the park, and we'll show the video footage of that happening. And we see him walking across the screen here with much energy. And now if we pause the frame, you can see we can use this as an overlay. We'll just use our standard paint tools. And we can trace a stick figure over Nelson. We can draw the head. We can then trace the major body joints. We can go along his spinal axes. We can trace his legs, separating them at the major joints, so here at the knee, so that as he moves, we can get the full range of motion. We can trace shoulders and do his two arms as well. We'll just kind of guess what his arm is back there. As you see, we get a stick figure, an individual frame. Now, if we would start from the beginning of that sequence and draw consecutive frames of Nelson paused, we could then put them together in Paintworks Gold, for example, using a function called show, where you can put together paint images into an animation. So let's actually show you an example of that. Now, the thing that's exciting to me about this is many years ago, there were experiments to go and try to determine things like, do a horse's hooves actually touch the ground all at the same time? And they had to go and take photos of them and sequence through them very quickly. You can have students go out and do this now themselves. So here's an example of Nelson walking. And you can see we get a pretty good approximation of human motion that way. Now we can slow him down. And you can see which leg is forward. You can see the enthusiastic swing of the arms. And we can do this not only for human motion. You could go to a zoo and take a look at different animals and how different species of animals move differently.
That would be interesting. You could actually do an analysis of different gaits. You might take a look at a horse or a zebra or a lion or a monkey and trace their running patterns and seeing whether or not, in fact, all four do touch the ground at the same time.
In fact, we had one student we were working with, a young girl who wants to be on the Olympic equestrian team when she grows up. And she would do this kind of motion analysis on the different horses she would ride to determine which was the best trotter, which was the best jumper. It was really fascinating to watch. Another example that we might have is using it as a tool for language and literacy training, especially in schools for the deaf, where you'd like to teach sign language, and the visuals are everything. So what we did is we created an example here where we have a student who is signing Apple's credo, in fact, for special education, that Apple technology lets ordinary people do extraordinary things and extraordinary people do ordinary things. So we can take a look at the video footage, and she's here on the screen.
Apple technology lets ordinary people do extraordinary things, and extraordinary people do ordinary things.
Now we can take that same video footage, and a teacher can do an overlay on top of it and create an instructional material for their class. So here we have the beginning of the sequence. I can pull up a graphic. Now, I don't know sign language, so if I was looking at that, I wouldn't know which phrase was which, since the audio was not synced to the video. But we can, through overlays, single out selective components and get an idea of what we want to create. So here we have a frame where we're going to do the phrase Apple. And we'll start recording onto VCR Live. And we can then go ahead and play the sequence back. And she'll come up and go through the first portion of the sequence. Now you can see it's actually that motion simulating coring an apple on her cheek that is for the phrase Apple. Now we can stop this, rewind.
So if we wanted to teach people that have verbal capacity how to sign, we in fact could decompose her emotion and use this as an instructional tool.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we would have then recorded onto videotape the combined video image with the graphic, and a teacher could use that to either hand out to their students, use as a presentation tool, or develop commercial instructional materials. We do have, in fact, let's get back to that. You mentioned if we had any more sports figures. We were fortunate enough to be up in Berkeley several weeks ago. And we caught some hot young talent playing a little bit of basketball one-on-one. So why don't we show you these figures? I think they've got a lot of potential here.
I don't know. Berkeley does not have good basketball players. That would be shocking to me if you found real talent in Berkeley. Protesting, yes. Basketball, no. I told my boss I was traveling that day.
He looks just like the head of our legal counsel.
Yes.
Here. So we'll take a look at a play that we caught these gentlemen on the screen unsuspectingly, and they'll run through a little motion here.
You promise you won't tell anybody when you shot this
I don't think
this
any.
footage?
We'll just keep it secret in this room.
Okay. I thought that was a fairly good move, don't you?
I think that was, and in fact, it looked very well executed. So we can go back here and use the painting tool, and we'll go and choose a proper width line. And in fact, let's take a look at this very well executed play. Dave starting here.
Ho, Doug, wait a sec. God, you guys are screwing that all up.
Holy cow. Ladies and...
Selics have this area depressed enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, this looks like Bob Cousy, number 14.
Speaking of depression, my name is Bob Cousy, and I hate to tell you, but if that is meaningful to any of you, that must mean you're ready to cash in your Social Security check. So, what did I hear recently? You know you're going through the aging process when your wife gives up sex for Lent and you don't find out about it until Good Friday. In any event, my friends need a little help here.
We seem to have a little bit of a disagreement here, so why don't you tell me what you saw here?
Well, I saw the only black guy that ever came out of New York that couldn't play basketball, I'll tell you that.
You mean this gentleman right here?
Yes. Gee, I hate to say that I'm from New York myself. But in any event, yeah, well, let's do a quick critique here. The play sets up fine. Number 33.
Which one?
And number 33, setting the pick. Has to get a little meaner, a little tougher, I think. To begin with, he's facing the wrong way, as you can see. He's trying to lay a shot on this sucker here, and in order to make sure he gets him, he has to face him. You notice he's trying to slide away from him to, I guess, absorb minimal contact. But what you got to do, especially when you're coming across laterally, you can get as close to that man as you choose to. So he's got to face and turn, and then when the contact takes place, why don't we run that?
Okay.
When the contact takes place, he's got to hold it momentarily. He's so anxious to score that 2 points that he releases it too quickly, I'm afraid. Let's take a look.
Okay, why don't we roll it?
Okay, Dave is going to come off the pick. Now, Bernie's got to turn and face to make sure he gets that guy. There we go. No, see, there he goes. He releases a little too quickly. He wants to get that X alongside his name and get the 2 points. And then I think, a good official would have called a violation. He took a few extra steps on that day. So
you mean traveling?
Yeah, we can't even give him 2 points. So,
Well, we've got another one for you. Why don't we take a look at this one, and maybe we can do a little better.
All right. Is Bernie setting the pick again? Bernie's obviously not a shooter if he keeps setting picks.
I think actually there's some hidden talents that we'll get to take a look at a little later.
Uh-huh. Well hidden.
Well hidden. So here's the next play. We'll roll this.
Okay, this looks like Bernie coming up to set a back pick now on Dave's man. Well, okay. Hey, the good news is Bernie didn't get to shoot. But I don't know, in terms of basketball logic, I don't know why we'd want to set a pick like 6 feet from the basket to create a shot 23 feet away. Unless Dave actually does shoot as well as Larry Bird from the from the corner. Let's take a look at this now. Where Bernie sets the pick, we're about 6 to 8 feet away. And normally the offense wants to work outside in, obviously create the closest shot possible. Here we're setting a low pick and the man goes to the corner. You guys must have had to shoot that, what, 28 times before he made that shot? Well, I think the concept is great, but I think, you know, the people demonstrating have to be replaced immediately.
Saying there's not much of a future for basketball?
Well, hey, if John Madden can do it, it's fine with me.
Well, in fact, as I mentioned, Bernie does have some hidden talents, and we managed to catch him on the super slow-mo cams doing some special shots. So
means we have to see it again?
We have to see it again.
Okay. Was there a step ladder under there? He jumped off a stool. You notice we had him cut at the waist, right? We had a stool under there. No, it's great form, Bernie. I probably wouldn't consider a career change at any point in the near future, however. All right. See, from there you become a good shooter. The very few baskets are missed from directly over the basket I've found over the years. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Mom.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Bob is right. I must admit, Bob, as a black kid growing up in Bed-Stuy, I did have some aspirations in basketball. But after playing with Connie Hawkins in my junior high school, I decided to do something easier. And that's why I decided to become a physicist. Look, you've been a wonderful audience. We have some additional footage that we would like to share with you. And I want to thank Doug. I'd like to thank Bob. And we will be staying around for a few minutes after this footage has been completed. Hang around. Thank you.
With the Apple II Video Overlay Card, anything's possible. It allows students to bring in a whole new world of information to their Apple II computer.
It's like when you read a book when you were a kid, and there were pictures in it, and you were like, wow, I wish I could be in the book. And now you really can on the computer screen.
This offers a whole new range of creativity and imagination to the family.
You just put reality with fantasy, and it's really neat. Neato.
Will you stop being so rowdy back there? Are we there yet? Almost. Yay!
I'm Smokey, the leader of the gang. This is Tiger, my cousin, Pumpkin, my best friend, and Princess, a white cat with black spots. She's sort of my girlfriend.
Like that?
Yeah, we can put claws on that one?
Thank you. Good morning. This good day was from another one of our colonies down under. Thought it'd be nice to wear. Every time I come to Boston as a Brit, in spite of some of my Irish background, I think of what might have been. If only King George III had held on to these disobedient colonies. Just think, British America has a ring to it. President Margaret Thatcher in the White Palace. Lord Donald Trump, Field Marshal Oliver North, receiving the royal pardon. Sir John Sculley. McDonald's tea shops. 45 billion cream teas sold so far. Cricket, your national ball game. America, last in the Olympics. Driving on the left-hand side of the road, but you do that in Boston anyway. A clean Boston harbor. We'd have cleaned that tea out years ago. The American Revolution, of course, was a squabble between a superpower of superior beings, the upper class, and these colonials.
Hey, you can't say that. We were the patriots. We were the good guys.
Rogues,
you were the colonial oppressors. You can't
see what
say
I
that.
mean?
You can't
Still
say that.
riffraff.
We won.
Still colonials.
No. We were on the right side. We were the good guys.
Good God, you can't kick them down, can you? Don't know. We'll just have to put them down. Bring the army in. Do something.
We already settled that one.
These patriots, quote unquote, are from Britannica Software, which is a subsidiary, of course, of Encyclopedia Britannica. They're displaying a new software package in booth. Give us a booth number. No? You don't know? See?
No.
See? We can stay superior.
We won the war. That's all that matters.
See? Anything above 10, they're in trouble.
Well, we don't have to stay here.
But it is called Revolution 76. Tell you something about it. It's a historical simulation that engages users in the American colonists, ill-fated, albeit successful, because we allowed it. Next time we're going to send the boys over. Your struggle for independence, I'm certainly going to check it out. Suggest you do the same. Anyway, the war between this British superpower and a few colonials was really a squabble between friends. But nonetheless, it was a revolution that changed the world. And today, all of us here are part of another revolution, and one that reaches beyond natural boundaries, reaches beyond geographic boundaries, and reaches to the farthest corners of the earth. In my previous lives at Apple, I've seen Apple computers used in places you just wouldn't believe. And it's a revolution in which we're all winners. We've all heard of how this revolution at Apple started in a garage. Apple, the company, did. But the ideas, the inspiration, came from a club, a grassroots gathering of computer enthusiasts. In 1975, and that isn't very long ago, computer hobbyists started to come together at meetings like this. Well, maybe a bit smaller, maybe a little bit smaller, to share insights, excitement, and ideas about emerging microprocessor technology. Individuals like the two Steves, Woz and Jobs, came together at the Homebrew Computer Club. Sounds like an interesting name. I wonder what they were drinking at the time. It was the first real user group, and they came together because they shared an interest in technology and its potential. Through the club, and born out of these two kids' passion, the elemental insights that formed the basis for Apple Computer were realized. First and fundamentally was the realization that microprocessor technology had become affordable for ordinary people. Engineers at Intel had miniaturized electronic circuitry, plunked it onto a silicon chip, and in the process, of course, they made it less expensive. The small size and the relatively low cost of this technology meant that computing power that was previously only found in big mainframes, in air-conditioned back rooms of large corporations, could now be brought down right onto the desktop. Now, this was hot stuff if you're an engineer or a programmer, but for the rest of us, for ordinary people, it was meaningless until the second founding vision of Apple was realized. If you could make it easy to use, ordinary people would use it. Not just enthusiasts, not just engineers, but students, homemakers, business people, middle managers, ordinary people with people just like us. And they used it not because they had a compelling interest in the technology itself, but what they could accomplish with it. The third insight, and this is what helped launch this company of ours, and really launch the entire industry, is if you could put this incredible power into the hands of millions of people, it would trigger a revolution and change the way that we learn, the way we do business, and why not the way we enjoy ourselves. Now, in this 12 years, and it's just 12 years now since Apple was born, there's been a revolution. These three elements have converged to form the basis of our company. But it's taken more than that. It's taken passion. The French believe, by the way, the British have no passion. But we have passion. And I've seen tremendous passion in this company. And it was the passion in Apple and the people that are around Apple to change the world, to free people from the mundane and the tedious, and to inspire them with powerful tools to help them be their creative and their productive best. It's that passion that spawned the development of first the Apple I, the hobbyist machine, and then, of course, the Apple II that brought the power of computer technology and put it into the hands of people like you and me. It's a passion that has fueled the creativity of engineers, software developers, and users. And it's made enthusiasts out of unsuspecting third graders, secretaries, and those middle managers, and people at home. And it really is still that passion that drives our imagination and permeates our products today. Apple's products and personal computers have come a long way from a machine that was built to show the homebrew computer club that some kind of personal computer was a possibility, to desktop workstations with the power of mainframes. And Apple's come a long way too, from a couple of kids that had a questionable credit line, nearly as good as mine now, to a Fortune 200 company that sells in 89 countries worldwide and has sales this year which will top $5 billion a year. But through it all, our founding vision remains the same. It must. And with it, our unwavering commitment to make the best personal computer tools possible. You know, when you buy a company's products, you buy the company. You buy its vision. Its vision is articulated in those products. So you better get to understand and know what that vision is. We have a very clear vision. It doesn't waver. Based on three founding insights, was, and I'll quote, "I always wanted a computer. Microprocessors make them affordable. Now I can build one and show it off at the club." We still want to show our products off. We still want to make our users enthusiasts. Paul Tyrrell, who was the first dealer and started up the bike shop, said, If you make them simple, more people can use them. The headline of our first Apple II brochure said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." And that's still our goal. Steve Jobs, who said, "The computer is the most remarkable tool ever built. Putting it into the hands of thousands, millions of people, of individuals, would trigger a revolution." He didn't say that the computer was a revolution. He said it's what people do with it that's a revolution. We recognize the importance of this technology and our responsibility to help shape it. And our vision is based and built on our past. To give people like you and I tools which inspire them to achieve great things and that will help them change their world. That sentiment is reflected in our advertising, which I've lived with now for 5 years, and believe in, the power to be your best. But behind the overall vision, there must be a product vision. And it's clear. To design products without compromise, to be totally you-responsive. To provide tools that elicit the best in us. A spirit of creativity, a spirit of exploration, a spirit of courage, a spirit of confidence, and a spirit of enthusiasm. As John Sculley, our CEO, consistently and always commands, the very best computing experience possible, no compromise, period. The engineers certainly respond to that. And how do we do this? How do we adhere to this product mission? One, by making the individual our design point, the user. Engineering all the elements to work in harmony with each other so it responds instantly and intuitively to the user's touch and the user's need. By not allowing any competing features just to be bolted on. You ought to look around at some other claims going on right now. But don't bolt them on, because then they have to fight to coexist. Harmony is critical. Providing upward extensibility, always to keep the Apple user out in front. To make sure that inspiring new uses, new applications are made available to the Apple user first. Providing consistency to encourage exploration across a whole number of applications without fear and in fun. And by offering a wide product range on both the Apple II and on the Mac, we've got to have the right tool for the job. As you know, today there are two Apple product families, Apple II and Macintosh. But they were both born of and continue to be living evidence of our product design philosophy. The Apple II is our flagship product. It launched the industry. It set the standard. It is the longest lived. It is the largest selling personal computer available today. It's been on the market for 12 years, and we've sold nearly 5 million. It's the right idea at the right time. And Apple II is still the right idea. It's been proved to be more than a timely innovation. While the invention of the microprocessor inspired many other companies, do you see them around today? They all claim the perfect microcomputer, but very few remain. Apple II, on the other hand, survived, and it's carried on, and it will carry on. I heard somebody yesterday describe that in Apple there were pockets of support for Apple II. Well, I hope I'm not described as a pocket. And much of its reason, the reason for its success, lies in the product's design. On the other hand, if we switch to Mac, it's the computer where we're pushing the edges of technology, where many exciting technological innovations are taking place. It offers HyperCard, a software tool that's so far ahead of anybody else. It lets you organize, search for information, customize in the way that you think, non-sequentially, not hierarchically. It offers a great platform for multimedia. And it's intuitive, it's powerful, and it's easy to use. And I think that's another part of Apple going right back to its roots in ensuring that HyperCard was given with every Mac. An important thing to remember about these two computer families is that while they each have their own unique strengths and their own personality, and the people that use them have their own separate personalities, they do work well together. I expect them to coexist, feed off each other well into the foreseeable future. And I know what the future means. Apple has one of the approaches to life which is very different. Many people just look at the process of living and seeing where it takes them, a little bit like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. Apple doesn't work like that. It tends to try and do the impossible of setting forward visions of the future and then getting there. So when we talk about these two products working together, the environment they're going to work in will change. We must remember that. And we expect users to create, produce, and learn with Apple computers as long as they exist in the world. Today, millions of Apple II and Macintosh users are changing the world. Whether it's in the classroom, the boardroom, the living room, we're absolutely constantly amazed by what people achieve by our products. It's beyond our imagination because it's driven by your imagination. We believe that the change that we've been able to lead in this industry has been because of the incredible support of the people that have worked around us, developers and the dealers, the people that use our products, and people we can't let down, and we can't let down. Last October, we had a meeting in Palo Alto during an earthquake, because it often does it out there, and we talked about our future, what type of company we should be, and we questioned what we were and where we came from. And the thing that came out of that, and John Sculley was there, who heads our company, Jean-Louis Gasset, who heads R&D, was there, Alan Lauren, who heads the whole US operation, Mike Spindler, who runs Europe, and Del Yoakum, who now runs the Pacific. All came back down to this: is the one thing we cannot afford to give up as a company. We have to be different. We cannot be like IBM. We cannot be like DEC. We cannot be like Compaq. We cannot be by Sun, because of the people that support us. And those are the people that we have to work closely with. I think we've been screwing it up a number of times in different places, but we're all human beings. But that relationship is absolutely essential for us. Since the first Apple I was rolled out by Apple, there's been a feeling that we are part of and immersed in change, driving the process of change, driven by a belief that there is a possibility of real change in our world. As I've traveled around the world, and I've been in the ghettos of every city in Latin America, and Far East, and Africa, and Europe, change is needed. And this week I was talking at the Medical Health Sciences Conference in Memphis, and they're talking about change. This is change for survival. And when I talk to people in education, they're talking about change for survival. So change is necessary. We believe in it. We're part of it. We help drive it. We help to inspire the people that use our products to change it. And we know that since the process of Apple coming into this market, the world has changed. We can't claim it all. Love to put it in our advertising. Apple's changed the world. We can't. Most of it, that's down to you. We think our products have shaken it up a bit. We believe that, because you've shaken it up a bit. But it really is you, Apple users, that change in the world, and that's what we celebrate today. Our community and the amazing achievements in personal creativity, productivity, and education that have resulted. Our promise to you is that we will continue to provide you with the most inspiring computer tools that we can make, and the most exciting computing experience that we can imagine. Thank you for your time.
In the newspaper business, if you don't have the graphic immediately, forget it. Overnight service, You've got to have it right away. There are two great things about doing graphics on the Macintosh now. One is you can sell it very easily to the management because it saves a lot of money. Imagine the kind of time it takes for somebody in the engraving department to shoot this several times, figure out what screen you want on it. Here, this is a 20% blue, 30% red, 40% yellow. It was a nightmare for the people back there. They hated us, and it took a lot of time and money. But with the Knight Ridder newspapers starting to use the Macintosh to create graphics, we had the capability of exchanging them from one newspaper to the other. So that on any given day, if the San Jose Mercury News happened to be doing a big graphic on the president's new budget proposal, why should some other artist in Miami at the Miami Herald be doing exactly the same graphic and spending his time there? They can link directly with another newspaper. We've done that many times where a newspaper will call us up and say, you had a nice graphic in today's paper, can you give us a copy of it? And we'll say, fine, we'll link it to you. This is all because of the Macintosh. I can't imagine coming to work and not having a Mac sitting on my desk. I've had one for years now, and I think I'd rather give up my car than to give up my Mac.
When Apple introduced Macintosh, we set a new standard for the way computers could make themselves useful to people. That was just for openers. Since then, we've been making the Macintosh personal computer more capable and more versatile. We've expanded our family of peripherals, made it easy to connect with other Macintoshes and other kinds of computers, so that people who use Macintosh have a direct and seamless connection to the resources of any information system. With over 3,000 applications to help people become more effective, more inventive, more productive.
The way most people respond to the Macintosh is to look at it with a sense of wonderment, because they get into the Macintosh and they do things that they wanted always to do, better, faster, and that's fine. But then they get the Macintosh because there were obstacles. There are things that they couldn't do for lack of a proper tool or for a proper instrument, and then they get to write these beautiful documents to prepare these presentations. So they are fulfilling some of their dreams. And then after they've done that, they discover new thoughts because of the new language that we provide them. In other words, once they get over the obstacle, over the mountain range, they discover new territory of things that they can do they couldn't even dream of before they got into the Macintosh.
Macintosh has grown into a general productivity tool with some very impressive specialties, such as helping people communicate with clarity and impact, providing tools for design and modeling, opening new avenues for learning, both on campus and on the job, helping people distill information into knowledge and insight so they can make better decisions, and supporting the programming environments that will help developers around the world continue to extend the range of what you can do with Macintosh. We'd like to show you what's behind the continuing evolution of Macintosh. It's an approach that we call the Open Architecture System Integration Strategy, or more simply, OASIS.
The basic promise of OASIS is that the consistency, the power, the grace, the self-actualization that we provide today with the Macintosh, we can move gracefully into the future using new technology and new software development.
Macintosh is the personal computer that established the advantages of a graphics-based human interface. You control it in a simple, intuitive fashion by pointing to menus instead of having to remember and type commands, and by manipulating screen objects that behave like objects in the real world. All of which gives you a direct and straightforward way to communicate your intentions to the system, and an equally direct way to learn the results.
What we do is we study how people work with tools, and there are a variety of tools that are very successful, such as a pencil or a piece of paper, and then we look at how we can more closely model that successful relationship and then create it as a computer artifact.
With Macintosh, various applications, even from different developers, work in the same clear and consistent fashion. And that leads to a very important consequence. People can combine applications to assemble the precise set of tools they require. Because the ultimate question isn't how easy is it to use, but how much can I do with it? The foundation for this consistency and integration across applications lies in the Macintosh architecture. It's an object-oriented design with hardware and software functions grouped into 5 distinct layers, each layer working with the others to provide users with an intuitive and consistent approach to computing. 2 of these layers are unique to Macintosh, the desktop and the toolbox. They give users and developers the software components that command the Macintosh experience. And because the entire system is modular, we can improve the components individually, upgrading them to encompass new capabilities, as, for example, when we brought color to Macintosh. We can make these improvements without disrupting the overall design, and more important, without disrupting the way people work with Macintosh. As our technology advances, we add new modules that enrich each layer of the architecture. This strategy of modular extensibility is the key to the smooth and rapid evolution of Macintosh. It's why people who use Macintosh have a direct connection to the future. Every computer system consists of hardware and software. The software is grouped into an operating system and applications. The operating system directs the way an application calls on such basic functions as input, output, processing, and storage. But when it comes to the way users deal with those functions, every application is on its own, which typically has resulted in a hodgepodge of interface ideas. Macintosh takes a different approach. With Macintosh, the user's view of the system isn't an afterthought, it's the central thought. To ensure a rich and consistent computing experience for users of Macintosh, we've moved beyond the typical 3-layer model of computer architecture and introduced 2 additional layers, the desktop and the toolbox. As we'll see, the desktop supports the user's experience directly, while the toolbox gives developers the tools they need to create a diversity of applications that look and feel and work together in a consistent way. The toolbox has a number of components to manage dialog boxes, windows, menus, and so forth. So, for example, when an application asks for a window, it comes out looking and behaving like a Macintosh window. The application can specify how big to make the window, where to place it on the screen, which window should be active, and so forth. The window manager takes it from there. To call up a menu, the application simply provides a list of items, and the menu manager turns them into working menus. And these menus work consistently from application to application.
What the toolbox does is give you a language, a consistent language that everybody shares in, like English, with or without accent. And what the applications on the desktop are poems, novels, stories. So you have a foundation which everybody can count on to communicate, to do things in a standard way. And yet, you have this incredible diversity using the standard language, the toolbox, to do things that do great desktop publishing, great word processors, great spreadsheets, great database programs, great networking devices. So what's very important to our customers and to ourselves and to our developers is the proper layering of what needs to be the same for everything to be harmoniously different.
While the toolbox makes the backstage machinery of Macintosh available to developers, the desktop layer gives users direct control of what happens on stage. The desktop layer lets you manage your system and customize it to your own preferences. Thanks to desktop modules from Apple and other developers, you can get the colors you want, the typefaces you want, or even the calculator you want. Modules in the desktop layer also provide internal connections for bringing data from one program into another, as well as external connections for controlling access to network resources.
At the desktop level, you can arrange your files the way you want on the desktop. The computer will find it for you. You can run an application, write any document you want. The computer will deal with it. You can have any choice of a crazy desk accessory. The computer will deal with it.
A large part also of what our design is to make things very much plug and go, so that people don't have to know a lot about their hardware configurations or how to plug them in to basically make it work themselves. I think one of the wonderful things about the Macintosh is the ability to pull the Macintosh out of a box the first time a user has purchased it and pretty much put it together without trying to fully understand how it works.
The operating system layer connects all of the higher layers to the hardware layer. Macintosh is designed around the Motorola 68000 family of processors. As newer, more powerful processors are developed, we incorporate them into the Macintosh.
These 5 layers give us a sense on how things are architected and work today. But more importantly, they give us a sense on how we can slide a brick out, put a new one, and keep the entire edifice working.
Here's an example of the OASIS strategy in action. Let's roll back the clock and see how the original Macintosh carried out a simple and standard function, reading a file from disk. The user pulls down the File menu, chooses Open, selects a file, and clicks on this button, and Macintosh reads the file from a floppy disk. Here's the way Macintosh processed that request, with components in each layer of the model taking part. The user interacts directly with the application, as we have seen, making a choice from a menu. When the menu selection is made, the application asks the standard file package in the desktop layer to put up a list of files currently on the disk. The user makes a choice, and the name of the file is returned to the application. The application then asks the file manager in the toolbox layer to open the file, and the file manager in turn calls upon the device driver in the operating system layer, which physically reads the file from the floppy disk so the user can work on it. When our users required large-scale storage capacity, OASIS provided the framework for upgrading. A flat directory system would be overwhelmed by the number of files on a typical hard disk, so we modified the standard file package in the file manager to support a hierarchical filing system. To the user and to the application, the change was transparent. When you ask to open a file, you have a view of folders as well as documents. Each folder represents a subdirectory, and Macintosh can keep track of the full path to find the document. But for the user, the action of choosing the file is virtually the same.
The advantages that we get over that are that we tend to separate the developers from the hardware. They don't need to know that they're running on a particular type of video card or they're printing to a particular type of printer, because they know that they're always working with the same graphics package, or the same, in fact, toolbox package, or the same operating system package. We'll add a few more calls, but the basic functionality doesn't change.
Each new storage device in the hardware layer is installed with an appropriate driver in the operating system layer, and the file manager talks to them all. The user can switch drives from floppy disk to hard disk to optical disk and back with a click of the mouse.
It's sort of leave the drivers to us. We tend to basically define an interface for the drivers, and the developer will write a driver to that interface, and we support it. And then the application developer knows he can write to our toolbox, and we'll continue to support that interface. And we provide the peanut butter that goes between those two slices of bread.
The AppleTalk network system allows applications to access files on a network server. Through AppleTalk, the file manager has direct access to files and documents at remote locations.
We designed the AppleTalk filing protocol at the same time as we were designing the hierarchical file system of the Macintosh. And we implemented the AppleTalk filing protocol as a close neighbor working hand in glove with the file manager of the Macintosh.
We're continuing to add new modules to the toolbox to allow Macintosh users to connect with seamless simplicity to a multi-vendor computing environment.
There are more acronyms per square inch in networking than in any other area of data communications. Our job in Apple Computer is to mask that underlying complexity and to preserve the end-user computing experience.
Our objective is to populate the OASIS architecture with networking capability that allows this seamless, empowering extension of the Macintosh user space to resources that are remote, perhaps even across continents.
It is important for people to communicate with one another. That's true in a personal computing environment. I mean, you and I, if we work together, would like to share and exchange information electronically. That's what networking enables. When you take that capability into a business environment, it is important to support the types of connectivity available in those businesses. That's why we get into supporting Token Ring and Ethernet local area networks or wide area networks such as SNA or DECnet.
The OASIS architecture allows us to integrate new network services into Macintosh. But our goal is to assure that the user's view of the network remains simple and direct. Accessing files on any network is no different from accessing files on a local hard disk.
I think Sadhu has the phrase that the Cheshire Cat, the network disappears, but the smile remains. I love it.
When we look at the future, what will happen is that there will be changes at each and every layer over time, continuously, without disrupting the entire edifice. That's the key point to remember.
Here's a glimpse into the near future, and a few of the ways we'll integrate new technology into Macintosh as we continue to integrate Macintosh into a multi-vendor environment. To handle larger data files and more sophisticated applications, we'll introduce a full 32-bit operating system with virtual memory and multitasking. We'll support inter-process communications and provide a direct way for applications to share data both locally and across networks, giving people better ways to view, analyze, and act on current information throughout an organization. We'll integrate enhanced imaging, video, and sound, as well as 32-bit quick draw, and will extend the ability of HyperCard to access information across networks and through a variety of media, making Macintosh the optimal platform for hypermedia development.
OASIS will help us deliver on a double promise, which is on the one hand, move forward what you have today, bring new applications in a harmonious way, so that technology can be brought in, enhancing as opposed to disrupting. But more importantly, it will help us deliver on our belief, on our commitment, which is to make someday personal computers the most important tool known to man.
When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it.
History is not dead. History is not just black and white type. History is something that lives. I'm William Lord, and I'm Vice President of a new unit at ABC called ABC News Interactive. And our purpose is to make our library of film and tape available to the school systems through interactive video discs, giving the teacher the tools that he or she has never had before in terms of bringing the reality of history to the classroom.
This is great.
Our first program is called the 88 Vote. Peter Jennings acts as our host.
Hello, I'm Peter Jennings. Welcome to Side 1 of the 88 Vote, an interactive video disc on the 1988 campaign for the White House.
It is a summary of all of the candidates who announced and withdrew during the 88 campaign, highlights from the national conventions, as well as some 22 issues that are discussed and debated by the candidates during the campaign. We chose the Macintosh to use as our editorial storage device and navigator, thanks to HyperCard, because it is the only computer that can simply and effectively act as the front end to our video disc.
My friends, we're cleaning up Boston Harbor.
The video disc has proven itself to be extremely dependable, and with the HyperCard access to it, you have an extremely strong combination of technology that is right, that is not prohibitively expensive, and that increases excitement in terms of learning. This is the greatest high I have ever had. It is a new industry. It's a socially responsible effort, and we know that it can help us grow in the future.
These people are part of a revolution called desktop publishing. They may not be aware of it, but that's not unusual, because technological revolutions tend to spread in ways even their inventors never imagined. Radar was invented to track World War II aircraft. Today, you may tell the highway patrolman who stops your car that he isn't using radar for its intended purpose. A lot of good it'll do you. So it's not just the invention that characterizes a revolution. Rather, it is the ensuing innovation in the hands of the users. Who would guess, for instance, that this Macintosh would help millions of New Yorkers get to work on time?
Anything the passenger sees in terms of information to guide them through the system comes from this department. We are a dynamic system of 50,000 employees and 466 train stations and 240 bus routes. The Macintosh came on site in November of '87, which was the day the Manhattan Bridge closed. And we learned PageMaker real fast that day because we had to put out signs at the bus stops immediately.
Here.
It's opened up different ways of thinking. You begin to understand how quickly you can move from an abstract idea to a finite piece of graphic material. And most of us in this department are not young, and I'm very happy that all of us feel comfortable with it because we all come from a pretty traditional art background. You know, we laugh about it sometimes. We used to do hand-drawn letters, you know, with the chisel point pencil, and now we're doing it on a machine. We have a sense of pride in this department because we are getting the job done. You know, the Mac has helped us to achieve that.
What makes desktop publishing a revolution? The answer's not in either of these books. It's in the path from here to here. In the 15th century, this German dictionary was written entirely by hand. But then, a few years later, in another part of Germany, a fellow called Gutenberg had an idea. With his invention of movable type, books, like this Gutenberg Bible, could be printed in a fraction of the time it took the scribes. But there was a price to pay. There always is. Because as printing presses grew larger, more sophisticated, more expensive to own, they became less accessible to the individual creator. Which is why desktop publishing is such a revolution. It put the presses back in the hands of the individual. It collapsed a long series of steps into one machine, so that a graduate student from Yale University could produce this book by himself.
Desktop publishing came to Yale 4 years ago. It suddenly became possible for people at all levels in the Yale community to get their own work directly into print. The Macintosh really makes everybody potentially an originator of things, an author, the original source. The problem with this poster is not with the planet. That's perfectly clear, and if it isn't perfectly clear, it's really not a problem. You can't be imbued with all the rules of grammar that make visual things beautiful in a short time, but if you have those rules built into your mind, you're not held up by the machinery. That's the issue.
Increasing the point size?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a good suggestion.
You can sit down at a machine and make and illustrate a book and print a very small edition of it on the same equipment that you use to set the type. It really removes a whole level of self-consciousness. You don't have to get it right the first time. You have a sense that anything you do can be refined so that you don't have to feel that tightness that you get when you get one chance at a thing. You suddenly succeed in stating something so clearly that the lights come on, and that's the kind of elegance I'm talking about.
This stamp was designed by a Yale student for the US Postal Service. What makes desktop publishing work like this isn't just the use of a computer, but the fact that it's possible to communicate intuitively with a computer, giving the user a sense of direct manipulation. Say I want to publish this bit of text. I want it to look like a newspaper, so I lay it out properly by exporting it to a page layout program. I think it would look better in 3 columns than 2. Oh, and I'd like to include a photograph. Better leave room for it. Here. No, that doesn't look right. How about here? Yeah, that's it. Before Gutenberg, word of mouth was the way most local news was exchanged, and the town well was a favourite place for it. That tradition still lives, but there is a far more efficient way of reaching a specific audience.
We got involved with Macintosh early on. Desktop publishing was something that was provided to Macintosh users before any of the other platforms. We looked at it. It made sense for our business, and we adopted as much of it as we could.
We use desktop publishing very often in helping our clients understand their businesses, understand the issues, understand the problems, or even often to understand the recommendations we're making.
Is move him from a before to a during the process and do the same thing on this side.
The thing that's changed is you used to do everything in a narrative format. Now, instead, you can show them the pictures and discuss it openly with them so that within a short period of time, everybody's coming from the same point.
I think it'll be fine.
Without desktop publishing tools, the proposal would have been lackluster. We're professionals, and we feel uncomfortable presenting anything to anybody that is less than professional.
Now, we've seen that computers have made text simple to handle. What they've discovered at some newspapers is that graphics can be created and modified just as simply as text.
What we have tomorrow are 2 possibilities for page 1. We have this one story that we've been talking about for some time now on automobile insurance and how the rate...
We've been using the Macintosh to produce graphics here since they were first introduced back, I think, in 1984. The artists have turned more and more to the Macintosh and farther away from their other tools. They've learned to illustrate on it, which I didn't think we would ever be able to do. I didn't think we'd ever be able to get the kind of line quality and composition on a computer screen that you could with a piece of mapboard and pen and ink. Before the advent of the Macintosh, I would have been very nervous at 11 o'clock in the morning about what we were actually going to get in terms of information and then how we were going to turn that information around and present it in a visual way. What the Macintosh has enabled us to do is for me to not get nervous now until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because I know that the means of producing it, of taking the information, and then producing it in a visual way has been shortened incredibly.
Our organization has put Macintoshes at pretty much all our newspapers. We can share all our graphics. It's basically giving every Gannett paper one of the largest art departments in the world. Macintosh allows you easy access to anything you've ever done before, or anything that anybody else has done before. Again, you build a library that's incomparable. You'll see the day when USA Today, for example, will be done completely on the computer. Some artwork may be done in a traditional method, but scanned in, it will all be assembled, and we'll be able to send that finished product via the satellite to all the print sites without ever having to create a page, hard copy page here.
Gutenberg took written communication out of the hand of the individual and gave us a world of standardized information. He led us on a path beyond the villages of our ancestors, and we have been exploring that great beyond ever since. Those who used Gutenberg's invention to bring innovation, businessmen and scholars, statesmen and scientists, have created the world in which we live today. And in doing so, they have reunited us with our own past, with a world where we as individuals can once again express our creativity or our views as publishers.
The Macintosh makes us extremely competitive. And the reason being is that there are no other design firms that we're aware of that use as many Macintoshes in as many ways as we do.
This pendant is a remote control device for a home care hospital bed. It was designed on the Macintosh. We determined what kind of switches we needed, drew those in a CAD program, designed the size and the shape of the PC board, and then the engineer gave me those files. And I drew right on top of those files the case itself.
Well, we use a company called Visual Engineering. They're a prototyper in Dallas. And what we do is we'll develop all of the databases here on our computers, and then we'll either modem or send them a disk.
We did some work with Chip and Richard, and they basically introduced us to the CAD portion of it. And watching Chip do a drawing that probably would take me 40 to 50 hours by hand, and him churning it out in one evening made me very interested in the system.
There's no question that we couldn't do what we've done with traditional hand tools and hand operating methods of design, the drafting board, T-square type of thing.
You know, you need to go from ground zero all the way to the finished piece, and you can do that on the